Hi guys, welcome back. As you can see, I'm working on this battery pack, trying to get it into my bag, and I've run into a bit of a problem. You see, this battery pack is 48 volts, 52 volts, something like that, and was more or less made to fit this pack. And it does, it fits it really well, but unfortunately it doesn't fit it when I start putting 12 volt stuff into it and fuses and stuff to try and make it all a bit more safe. And that's a problem, because it means I'm going to have to make some sort of a box for it, and I have to be honest, the place is a real mess. Because when I realised all that, I walked off in a huff. So, yeah, I was hoping to try and keep everything sitting in this, everything nice and neat in this bag, and it's not going to work. So, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to make something, probably using plywood, probably make a plywood frame to go around the corner, or the shape of the triangle, and then fit the battery and everything into it. And then I haven't quite decided what I'm going to clad the outside of the thing with. Maybe more plywood or maybe alloy or something, not sure, but I'll figure out something. But I think that's what I'm going to have to do. Like I say, this has been in this sort of state for several days now, because I've been very busy working hard, and as I said, when I realised the situation, I wasn't very happy about it, and I stormed off in a huff. So anyway, that's where we are for now. The positive side to all that, of course, is that all of this junk can then be properly enclosed in the box. There has been no signs of overheating of any of the components, so I'm not too concerned about that. And if I put everything into the box, the whole thing will be a little bit neater. So every silver lining has a cloud and all that. Or is it every cloud is a silver lining? Yeah, whatever. Anyway, that's where we are. When I get a bit further, I'll report back and show you what I'm doing. Alright, bye for now. Okay guys, so here's a quick update on what it is I was trying to achieve. So the battery pack itself has an egg and a pause, or a pause and an egg, that's a positive, not the negative, coming out of it. So what I decided to do was to put both ends through these fuse boxes, and that, I don't know if you can see that, probably not. Anyway, that's a 60 amp fuse, 60 amp fuse in each of them. Doesn't have to be a fuse in each of them, but I thought I might as well. It also gives me the option, because these have shouldn't have closed that. There we go. Because these have bolts to connect, it gives me the opportunity then to make a separate little connector or lead, and just bolt, put, I can't remember those ring terminals or whatever that is, put that kind of terminal on the end of it so that I can easily connect devices to the power. Now the reason I'm doing that is because I wanted to put one of these onto it, and this is a 12 volt adapter, or 36 volt to 72 volt input, and output is 12 volts. And the reason I wanted that is because I've decided to put some 12 volt stuff onto this. Now, this rear light is 12 volts, and as you can see, I had to make this little panel that it's attached to. That's just made out of some plastic I had lying around. and bolted this light to it. So that's a 12 volt light. It actually comes with a stop light on it as well, so when you put on the brakes it gets brighter. Don't know if we'll connect that or not, but for now it works fine as a light. I've got the lights in the front as well, and what I've also got is one of these switch jobbies here attached to the handlebars, and what I was going to do was use the red button to turn off and on the lights because it's a latched switch, and the green button, which is supposed to be a horn, but I was going to use that for turning on the Bluetooth option on the BMS. And the way that that is currently wired is that green switch goes through these two wires here, which switches it's just an old battery, an old 4 volt lithium ion battery. I think that came out of a drill. It's actually not that old, it's in pretty good condition, but the reason for that is because to turn this battery pack on you need to put between 3 and 5 volts onto these two red wires here. So I figured it'd be nice and handy just to switch it. Just put a battery in there, sure. It'll last for months and months. Just recharge it every now and again. So I thought that would be a simple way of turning the BMS off and on if I want to use it with the BMS app, and put my phone into this little bag here. So that's the reason for that. What I've also done is I've connected in these Molex, I think they're called. They're old computer power supply connectors. So I had an old power supply lying around, and I also had some female or male, whichever way you want to put it, connectors as well, so I'm using that to drive this. So basically what happens is when I push this red button, it switches the 72 volt side from here into these connectors, and I have it wired in such a way that the red is 72 volts and the yellow is 12 volts, and the neg is common. And what that means is I can use that switch to basically switch on both the 72 volts and the 12 volts to the lights. I can use 72 volts or 12 volts with this light. It's quite it has a buck converter built into it, so it can handle anything basically up to 72 volts, and this backlight is only 12 volts. So that's why one of the reasons why I wanted this 12 volt adapter, and the other reason was if I ever decide to change the front light, it means I can put in a standard 12 volt light. But anyway, that's where we're at. I've got this all disconnected now, so what I'm going to do is rip that all out, take this off, and make the frame for this to fit. And like I said before, when I get that done, I'll get back. Okay guys, as you can see, what we're doing here is we're making a wooden frame. I'm just going to make the frame out of plywood, more or less the shape of the triangle of the bike, and with that in mind we have loads of space. Hopefully we even have enough space to put a little shelf in there, something like that, so that we can put all our electronics in this upper half and have the battery in the lower half. At least that's the idea. Jipper, she's a heavy beast. Never actually weighed that. I suppose I should do, but this is the pack as it is now. So the idea is basically make a wooden frame out of plywood, 1/4 inch or 8mm ply, something like that. 5/8, maybe not, maybe bigger than 1/4 inch. I'm sure it's 5/8. Anyway, make the frame for the box out of plywood, and then we'll decide what to use to skin the outside. Haven't decided that yet. I have alloy, sheet alloy, which I could use. I have sheet tin I could use, or I could make something with my 3D printer. The reason I decided not to make the box with the 3D printer in this bike, like I did with this one, move up out of the way. This is the box I made for my other bike. Come right and show you this side. And the reason I decided not to do that is because basically I need a bit more space, and the idea of waiting 16 hours to print out a box that size didn't appeal. So I decided just to go with what you see, plywood, and when it's finished we can paint it, clad it, cover it with sticky back plastic, whatever. We can do all sorts of things to try and make it look a bit more decent. At the minute it looks pretty awful, but it's fairly solid. As you can see, I've got the screw holes for the bottle, drinks bottle, holding that on end. I've only got one on this side. The reason I didn't go all the way down to the bottom is because I needed to avoid the chain, so that should do that. As you can see, it's not, it's hitting the side stand, that's why it's not going all the way back, but it's the cranks are not even close to it. So yeah, this is where we're at. Yeah, try to put it back in. Like I say, it's a heavy beast. Turn that around a bit. It's a heavy beast, but it fits reasonably well. Possibly there would have been a better position, but this battery pack was built to fit the bag, which I'll just throw over here. I actually originally built it to fit this bag, and so I built it the shape to fit that bag, but the bag wasn't big enough when I started adding all the extra bits and pieces that I wanted to put in, so that's why I'm going down this road. Not what I wanted to do, but oh well, needs must. Anyway, when I get a bit further on, I will come back and show you some more. Right, well, as you can see, I've got a little bit more done. The frame, the wooden frame, is now nice and secure in position. I put a screw up here straight into the bicycle frame, and there's a bolt holding down here that was going into a water bottle. 2 water bottle bolts here, and a screw up around here. Once again, just going straight into the frame. So it's nice and solid. It's all glued and screwed. As you can see, I am no joiner, but it's not too terrible. What I'm hoping to do now is to get some sort of a, I don't know, piece of wood or something going across here on this side, and the same on the other side, to hold the battery in position, and then some kind of a cover that comes out, down and in, to enclose the whole thing, to make it nice and pretty. But yeah, I've been busy, believe it or not. It's taken me half of a Saturday and most of a Friday night to make this poxy wee frame. Like I said, I'm no joiner, but it had to be a tight fit, and I think it is. There's a bit of a gap at the top there, but that's not a problem. So, next thing, get all the electronics connected up and in position. Oops. This was the beastie that was probably the biggest thing that was causing the problem with the bag, and that this is the 60-70 volt to 12 volt converter. And the funny old thing is, look what arrived. Excuse me. Look what arrived. If I can focus. Yeah. It's quite possible that all of this effort wasn't really necessary, and I might have got away with this. This is a 3 amp 60 volt to 12 volt converter. It doesn't really. This is waterproof. The other one's not waterproof, but probably more powerful. 3 amps is probably plenty to handle the LED lights in this. I don't know. I'll check it and see. But if I can use this if I need to, or if I feel like it, or I can use the bigger one if I need to. But anyway, that's the situation. I still need to do a bit of cutting and whatever to get. I'll put these fuses. Put the fuses up here somewhere. There's another one on the other side. And then have the cables going into it. At least I can do it nice and neat with that shelf on the top, just above the battery pack. It means you can keep everything nice and neat. I've even got some foam taped to the bottom of the battery. Although it shouldn't be too bad because the cell holders that I used are protecting the cells as well. So shouldn't really need too much foam, but I thought I would put it in there anyway just to stop any nasty shocks. But yep, so far so good. A few more hours and we'll have this sorted out in that it'll be enclosed, or at least it'll be held in place, and all the electronics connected. But I still haven't decided how I'm going to cover the triangle. Might have a go at making something with making something out of fiberglass. I don't know. I even have some carbon fiber. That would be neat if it was made out of real carbon fiber. But I don't know. It'll only be decorative, just to cover it over anyway. The main strength will be, like I say, some piece of bar going across to hold that in position. So anyway, that's where we are for now. I want to get a bit more done. I'll come back and show you what we've done. Well, as you can see, we have a little bit more progress. I've got a bar going across here. There's just a bolt at either end, and that will hold the whole thing, hold the battery in place, stop it from falling out. I've cut little notches out for the cables from the battery to go in, and on this side I've cut a notch here to bring the cables in from the handlebars, and over here's basically starting to get the cabling sorted out. I've got, as you can see, the controller sits very nicely in there. That's, I have to admit, that's more by accident than by design, that it fits so well. And if I replace that controller, there's no guarantees that the new one will fit as well as that, but it's not too bad. Quite happy with it for now. This is one of the fuses. There's 2 fuses coming from the BMS, which I showed you before. So yeah, it's all starting to come together. I need to shorten these cables, they're far too long. This scroll out. Yeah, far too long. So I'll shorten those cables, try and tidy everything up a bit, tidy up all the cabling. The plan for to cover this is try and get some sort of a cover that goes around all of the metal framework to enclose the battery and enclose this whole thing, because this is not going to be pretty when I'm finished, but hopefully when I get a nice plastic cover over it, it'll look well. Well, if I start off with a sheet of plastic wrapped around the top and wrapped around all the bars, start off with that, try and get it nice and taut and whatever, and then use that to make a mold, and then maybe make a fiberglass or possibly even carbon fiber cover for it. So that's all doable. I have the carbon fiber. It's easy to get the fiberglass. It's been a few years since I worked with it though, so I'm not terribly good at it, but we'll see. I'm sure we'll manage something. But for now, I'm very happy with the way it's going. I should be able to get all of the cabling nice and neat out of the way, and yeah, hopefully it should work. That's the plan anyway. Alright guys, well, as you can see, we've almost got this buttoned up. You can tell by the mess on the floor, I've been doing more work. I've shortened a lot of the cables, resoldered them all together. I have the controller tied in, more or less. It's just cable ties holding it in is good enough. I have bits of Velcro just holding in these wires here. It's just to keep them from falling out. And what I have achieved is, if I can just step over all this junk, if I push that button, nothing happens, because that is going through to this switch, which is not actually attached to anything yet. Sorry, not that switch. That switch is attached to this connector. This switch is attached to a 12 volt transceiver, jobby 12 volt transducer, whatever you want to call it. This thing here is a 60 volt to 12 volt adapter, so I'm using that to drive the lights, which you can see there and there. So, and that is operated with this switch. This one I haven't done anything with yet, but eventually I plan to use that for the cruise control. So flick it on, cruise control is on, flick it off, cruise control is off. Probably do it that way. And that button I think I will just use to turn on the Bluetooth on the BMS.